Amy Winehouse didn't just die from addiction. She died from neglect. Not the neglect of strangers, but of a society too eager to watch her burn, of a media that mocked her collapse for entertainment, of a lover who introduced her to drugs, and of a father who, at times, seemed more invested in her making money than in saving her life. We watched Amy unravel, filmed it, shared it, and profited from it. By the time we decided to mourn her, it was too late. Her tragedy wasn't inevitable. It was manufactured. Let me walk you through the rise, fall, and heartbreaking end of a woman whose life became public entertainment, and whose death became public regret. Amy Winehouse was born on September 14, 1983, in Southgate, North London, into a family where music wasn't just a hobby, it was a way of life. Her father, Mitch Winehouse, would sing Frank Sinatra songs around the house, and her mother, Janice, loved jazz and soul classics. From an early age, Amy was immersed in music, absorbing influences from Ella Fitzgerald, Dinah Washington, and Sarah Vaughan. At the age of 10, Amy formed a short-lived rap group with a friend called Sweet and Sour, jokingly describing themselves as the Little White Salt and Pepper. But her true passion was always singing. Her voice, even as a child, was mature beyond her years, deep, smoky, and filled with raw emotion. Amy enrolled at the Sylvia Young Theater School at 12 years old, but she was rebellious and didn't fit the mold of a typical stage school student. She was expelled for not applying herself and for piercing her nose, but that didn't stop her. At 14, she picked up a guitar and began writing her own music. Her lyrics were confessional, brutally honest, and entirely her own. Unlike many artists of her generation, Amy wrote from real experiences, channeling her life directly into her songs. By 16, she was working as an entertainment journalist while simultaneously singing with local jazz bands. A demo tape sent by her close friend Tyler James caught the attention of record executives, and by 19, she signed her first record deal with Island Records. In 2003, she released her debut album, Frank, a jazz-influenced collection of songs that drew critical acclaim. The album went platinum in the UK, earning her nominations for Brit Awards and a Mercury Prize nod. Amy, however, was frustrated with the final product, feeling it didn't fully represent her artistic vision. But even at that early stage, her talent was unmistakable. Amy was not just a singer. She was a rare kind of artist, someone who sang her pain and lived her lyrics. Her sound was a blend of old-school jazz and contemporary soul, her voice carrying the weight of someone far older than her years. It was this authenticity, combined with her remarkable vocal gift, that set her apart from everyone else. She once said in an interview, "I write songs because I'm fucked up in the head and I need to write them down to feel okay." Her lyrics were therapy, her music, her diary. Her life was about to change forever, but not necessarily for the better. Fame came big, and it came heavy. After the release of her debut album Frank, Amy was already a rising star in the UK. But it was her second album, Back to Black, that catapulted her into global superstardom. Released in 2006, the album was a raw, confessional masterpiece inspired by heartbreak, addiction, and love lost, much of it revolving around her tumultuous relationship with Blake Fielder Civil. Working with Mark Ronson and Salaam Remi, Amy crafted a sound that fused vintage 1960s Motown and soul with modern lyricism. Songs like Rehab, You Know I'm No Good, and Back to Black showcased her unique ability to channel pain into art. She famously refused to go to rehab when her management suggested it, turning the experience into the hit song Rehab with the iconic line, "They tried to make me go to rehab, but I said, no, no, no." The album was a massive success. Back to Black sold over 16 million copies worldwide and won 5 Grammy Awards in 2008, including Record of the Year, Song of the Year, and Best New Artist. Amy became the first British woman to win 5 Grammys in one night. Her collaboration with Mark Ronson on Valerie became another global hit, further cementing her as a leading voice in modern soul. Her duet with Tony Bennett on Body and Soul, recorded shortly before her death, revealed her deep jazz roots and earned posthumous acclaim. But success brought new pressures. The higher she climbed, the more intense the scrutiny became. Paparazzi hounded her every move. Tabloids detailed her nights out, her weight fluctuations, and her drug use. Her career was no longer just about music. It was about survival. In her own words, Amy reflected, "I don't think I'm such an amazing person who needs to be written about. I like to go out, get drunk, have relationships, fall in love and break up and write about it." Amy had become a star, but the spotlight came with a price she could never escape. Her success should have been a moment of triumph, but instead, it became the catalyst for a deeper descent. The more famous she became, the more her personal life unraveled under the relentless gaze of the media. The same voice that had captivated millions was now drowning beneath headlines and paparazzi flashes, the media's favorite spectacle and toxic love. As Amy's addiction worsened, so did the demands of the music industry and the public's hunger for spectacle. Despite obvious signs of her health deteriorating, she was pushed to perform, attend press events, and fulfill touring commitments. The industry was making millions from her, but not protecting her. Amy's father, Mitch Winehouse, was sometimes criticized for encouraging her to keep performing despite her fragile state. Management companies and promoters often prioritized the financial machine over her well-being. Crack was already part of her world, along with heroin, alcohol, and the relentless demand for more music, more appearances, and more Amy. There was no pause button, no safe space, just the expectation to keep going, even when she was breaking. At the same time, the media's obsession with Amy's personal life reached a fever pitch. Her every move was documented, her every stumble splashed across headlines. The paparazzi followed her relentlessly, camping outside her home day and night, capturing every tear and every intoxicated moment. Her song, Rehab, became a cruel anthem that fans and tabloids mocked, turning her cry for help into a public punchline. At the center of her struggles was her relationship with Blake Fielder Civil. Their love was as destructive as it was intense. They married in secret in 2007 despite warnings from friends and family. Blake introduced Amy to crack cocaine and heroin, leading them into a spiral of addiction and self-destruction. Their relationship was a cycle of passionate highs and violent lows, marked by physical fights, hospital visits, and public breakdowns. In August 2007, paparazzi snapped shocking photos of Amy and Blake, bruised and bloodied, wandering the streets barefoot after a violent argument at the Sanderson Hotel in London. The images splashed across tabloids worldwide, feeding a media frenzy that reveled in her pain. In early 2008, a video surfaced of Amy smoking crack cocaine in her home. The footage was sold to a tabloid for £50,000 and broadcast globally, turning her private collapse into entertainment for the masses. Her performance at the MTV Europe Music Awards in November 2007 was another public spectacle. Amy slurred her lyrics, stumbled across the stage, and appeared visibly out of control. Rather than offer concern, the media dissected her appearance for laughs. Despite attempts at recovery, the cameras never stopped flashing. In January 2008, she checked into the Capio Nightingale Hospital in London for rehab. But her efforts were ridiculed rather than respected. Her personal struggles were no longer private. They were part of the show. The worse she got, the more the public consumed it. The world watched Amy crumble, not to help, but to witness the collapse of a star in real time. On July 23, 2011, the world received the news it had been dreading but somehow expected. Amy Winehouse was dead. She was found unresponsive in her Camden townhouse by her bodyguard, Andrew Morris, who had been instructed to keep an eye on her but to give her space. According to Morris, he had checked on her in the morning and thought she was asleep. It wasn't until the afternoon that he realized she wasn't breathing. Amy had spent her last night the way she often did in her final days, watching old videos of herself performing, listening to music, and drinking alone. She had reportedly spoken to her doctor the evening before, sounding upbeat but fragile. Her last known conversation was about wanting to get back into the studio. But underneath those hopeful words, her body was giving out. When paramedics arrived at the scene, it was already too late. Amy Winehouse was pronounced dead at the age of 27, her life cut short in the same tragic pattern as so many other brilliant but broken artists before her. The coroner's inquest revealed the cause of death as alcohol poisoning. Her blood alcohol content was an astonishing 0.416%, over 5 times the UK drink drive limit and high enough to stop a heart. On her bedroom floor were 3 empty vodka bottles, a silent testimony to a binge that became fatal. In the weeks leading up to her death, Amy had been attempting to quit drinking on her own, going cold turkey without medical supervision. This method is extremely dangerous for someone with severe alcohol dependency. Her body, already weakened by years of abuse, could not handle the shock of withdrawal and subsequent relapse. Despite efforts from her family and friends to intervene, Amy's isolation had deepened in her final months. Her security team said she would often stay up all night, pacing the house, crying, and replaying her old performances. The weight of her fame, the pain of her relationships, and the self-loathing she carried had all compounded into a spiral she could not escape. Amy Winehouse's funeral was held at Edgwarebury Cemetery in North London on July 26, 2011. It was a private ceremony attended by close family, friends, and fellow musicians. She was cremated, and her ashes were later buried alongside her beloved grandmother, Cynthia, who had been one of the few stabilizing influences in her life. The world reacted with an outpouring of grief, but also with a heavy sense of guilt. Tributes flooded in from fans and fellow artists. Tony Bennett, her collaborator on Body and Soul, called her one of the truest jazz singers I've ever heard. Adele, who credited Amy with paving the way for her own career, broke down during concerts paying homage to her.
This song, every night that I've played since Amy Winehouse died, I've been singing it for her because I know that she loved this song. And I was so inspired by her, and she never took it seriously just how inspired I was by her, and she was such a joker and such a lovely girl, and it's just devastating, really.
Lady Gaga tweeted, "She made people proud to be British again. I remember knowing there was hope and feeling not alone because of her. She lived jazz. She lived the blues." Kelly Osbourne, a close friend of Amy's, tweeted, "I can't even breathe right now. I'm crying so hard. I just lost one of my best friends. I love you forever, Amy, and will never forget the real you." Mark Ronson, who produced much of Back to Black, said, "This is one of the saddest days of my life. Russell Brand, who had known Amy personally, wrote a reflective piece.
We've lost a beautiful and talented woman to this disease. Not all addicts have Amy's incredible talent, sweet and peculiar, but most of all, vulnerable.
Murals of Amy appeared on walls from London to Buenos Aires. Fans left flowers, notes, and whiskey bottles at the door of her Camden home, transforming it into a shrine. The Roundhouse in Camden, where she had once performed, held a special tribute concert. Radio stations around the world played her music on repeat. Media outlets that had spent years feeding on her collapse now published somber tributes. But behind the flowery headlines, there was an undeniable undercurrent of guilt. The same cameras that documented her downfall now mourned her brilliance. Amy joined the infamous 27 Club. The tragic roll call of artists like Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, and Kurt Cobain, all of whom died at the same young age. But Amy's death felt particularly cruel because it was a tragedy everyone had seen coming, and no one had stopped. Amy Winehouse's influence did not end with her death. It only expanded. She changed the face of modern pop and soul music by bringing an unapologetic, vintage-inspired authenticity to the mainstream. Her success paved the way for a new wave of female artists who embraced vulnerability, imperfection, and raw emotion. Artists like Adele, Duffy, Lana Del Rey, and Billie Eilish have all credited Amy as an inspiration. Billie Eilish has also mentioned Amy's influence, noting how Winehouse's honesty inspired her own approach to songwriting. Amy's impact reached beyond music charts. Her fashion, bold eyeliner, beehive hair, vintage dresses, became iconic, influencing style trends and cultural aesthetics. But it was her music, the way she blended jazz, Motown, soul, and modern lyricism that redefined pop culture. In 2015, the documentary Amy, directed by Asif Kapadia, was released to critical acclaim. It won the Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature and revealed the intimate, tragic story of her life, using unseen footage, personal video diaries, and interviews with those closest to her. The film reignited conversations about fame, addiction, and the responsibility of the media. Her family also established the Amy Winehouse Foundation, a charity that works to prevent drug and alcohol misuse among young people and supports disadvantaged youth through music education. The foundation ensures that Amy's name is not just associated with tragedy, but with hope and positive change. Her albums continue to sell, her songs continue to stream, and her voice continues to inspire new generations of artists and fans alike. Amy's music remains timeless, her legacy a bittersweet reminder of both her brilliance and the cost of our collective failure to protect her. Her passing wasn't just the loss of a voice, it was the loss of a life we collectively failed to protect.